Is Sticky D reporting in. That's Sticky Del Hagen. Going to answer just a couple questions tonight because these are very important questions, guys. And I want to give you some good, solid ass answers for these. And the first question is from Meyer. He says, listen, could you please give some tips and recommendations on wrist wraps? I bought some generics from the local sports store and they suck ass. All right. I think we've all been there, haven't we? Go to the local Dick's. Go to old Dick's, Sports Authority, MC Sports, whatever's around. Sporting goods store that sells the shittiest of the shit. And they're not very good. But here's the thing, guys. I think these local sporting goods ones, the reason they suck so much, specifically suck so much ass, is because they're it's not even that they're cheap, because like the material's good. It's that they're short. So like they're only good for like one wraparound. And that's not going to do jack diddly shit for you. Right? It's just not going to do squat. What you need one that's going to be long, that you can wrap around a few times. And listen, I went to big old Dick's in the past, all right? And I bought some of the cheap ones. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, man, these are kind of useless. I feel like stronger without them. And I went on eBay and I bought man, I can't even remember what the brand is. They're cheap. They're very cheap. They're like some of the cheapest ones. They were like $8. And they had them in like an American flag version. They had them in just different colors. And I got like the white tiger stripes. I figured it looked 80s. It was cool. And they worked well until the Velcro busted off. And you can watch my I wish it was 500. It would have been 500 if I wore the belt today. Anyways, you can watch the 495-pound bench press I did with elbow wraps today. And you'll see that I had the white tiger stripe wrist wraps on. And I realized that, you know what, the Velcro is not even important, because as long as the Velcro piece that you can just push to the cloth. Anyways, I'm getting beyond the point, guys. My point is, as long as you get ones that are relatively long, I don't know how long they come out to be, maybe like a foot or something. The cheap ones from Dick's, Sports Authority, whatever, your big local sporting goods store, are garbage. Because you need to get one that's a good length, okay? Because the thing is, when you put them on, guys, you want it to be so that it's like kind of here first, and you can get it super tight. So basically, whether you do a conventional grip or you do like a suicide grip like I do, you get to hyperextend your wrist a bit. But basically what it does is, like, this, just raw dog, feels terrible, especially when you're benching very frequently like I do. But when you have just a little support for that to go against, it makes all the difference, guys. And when you wrap really tight, like, your hand automatically goes to a claw so that your grip is a lot stronger as well. But the main thing is just wrap it around. You know, I'll tell you what. I told you I wanted to spend some time on this. This is a heart to heart. This is just a bro talk for the bros. I had some knee wraps, and you know, I didn't have to use knee wraps to realize that they were garbage. I put them on and I tried them once, and I was like, wow, these are horse shit. I'm not using these. Yeah, because first of all, there's proof that they're like bad for your knees too. Like, increases the shearing forces on your knees, and like anything that's going to lead to quicker destruction of your joints in this game that we called hoisting a heavy iron. Like, we want to hoist the heaviest of iron for the longest period of time. So if anything is going to accelerate the process of breaking down your joints faster, I'm going to opt out of that one. Okay. But then you got things like wrist wraps, where it's like, well, that will support and strengthen the joints, not destroy them like knee wraps, but strengthen the joints. So what I did was I took these knee wraps, and you can see from my video from 2 years ago when I did like 410 with the elbow wraps, I wrapped them around my elbows. And that's a whole different can of worms in itself. And let's get into that. But basically, I wrapped them around my elbows, and I realized, I'm like, man, this is kind of a pain in the ass. Like, it cuts off the circulation, makes my hands fall asleep. So I realized I have no use for these. So what I did was I took those knee wraps and compared to the, the garbage wrist wraps I bought from Dick's Sporting Goods that are like 6 inches or something long. I don't know. I cut these knee wraps so they were like that long, like a foot long. They were really long so that I could really wrap them around my wrists, like a lot, right? To get a ton of support. And the first time I benched with them like that, I was like, holy buckets. Now I can see why people wear wrist wraps. And I don't ever see the point of in benching without wrist wraps. Honestly, guys, it's not like it's assisting you in the lift, but what it is doing is like there's this chain of stability, right? And all it is doing is strengthening this. It's like they say with dysfunction. All dysfunction for like your lower back, your hips, your knees, anything, all stems from your foot. Right? Like if your gait, like your walking stride is messed up, or the shoe you're wearing is shitty or crappy or anything like that, eventually it starts from the bottom and it works its way up to the knee and then to the hip and to the back and all that. And then a lot of people try like, getting their backs massaged or like their quads or their hamstrings massaged when really the issue is the foot. So in that same theory, like when you're bench pressing or you're doing anything, pulls, anything, guys, honestly, like doing like rows, pull-ups, obviously bench, overhead press, any of that kind of stuff. Like if you can strengthen that, this is the start of like the chain basically, and you can strengthen that first link, like these are all links in the chain, right? And you can increase the stability and the support here. Now it's like sending a signal to your brain, like we can handle this weight. And guys, I hate to be a broken record here, but I've been preaching this for 5 years, maybe, about 5, maybe going on 6 years. It is a mindset, and it means more than, just like, I believe I'm going to lift this weight, so I'm going to lift this weight. No, I mean, like, listen, it's a mindset consciously, but also subconsciously, and also super subconsciously. So, like, if you're going to be benching 405, for instance, and it feels heavy as shit every time you unrack it, you're going to have a hard time doing it, because if it feels heavy as shit consciously, imagine subconsciously how your brain is feeling. Subconsciously, like, I don't want to lift this. I don't want to lift this weight, right? Because if you're like, wow, that's heavy, you have these instincts in your body where you're going to do what's safe for your body. Like in the long run, your body does not want to destroy itself, right? We don't want to die. We don't want to break ourselves. So when you have this extra support and you lift it up and it feels a little more secure in your hands, automatically, boom, you're not having that super subconscious signal anymore to your body to, hey, let's not lift this, it's too dangerous. Now all of a sudden your body's like, okay, we can handle this. Do you know what I mean? And people have asked me like that with the bench, listen, guys, every video I upload, how does he keep making these gains with his bench? Well, first and foremost, when you put weight on, the first lift that's going to go up when you gain body weight is your bench. But second of all, when you get that, like the things I call is the backbone, like that mat on my bench. So now you can arch and you can do leg drive and you're not sliding, which was always my problem before. I couldn't maintain an arch. Now when you watch my videos, I got a hell of an arch. And that's okay, because all that's doing is allowing you to retract your shoulder blades, get in a nice tucked position, engage your lats more, get in better leverages to engage more muscle groups in your pressing. It's like, well, you're cutting your range of motion. Yeah, you're cutting your range of motion, but you're only cutting it by yes, that's a lot. Maybe whatever. Maybe that's a lot or so. But the amount of weight that you can move in a safer manner without shoulder pain and all that is well worth it. So yes, the leg drive, the wrist wraps, the body weight, the wrist wraps, honestly, if you can wrap them super tight and you start to get like your body will be more comfortable handling big weight. It's like, I don't want to guarantee anything, but for me, it's like a guaranteed 10 extra pounds. And it's not like it's assisting the movement at all. It's just the security. Right? It's like people ask me, well, how does a belt help with bench press? Well, it doesn't really help with bench press, but what it does is it allows you to brace and contract and create more pressure in your abdomen, and more pressure equals more intra-abdominal pressure is more stability for your spine. And if you have more stability for your spine, more stability for your wrists, greater stability equals greater strength. Greater instability, worse strength. So if you can create more stability everywhere, you're better off. And then, guys, like I was saying, for the elbow wraps, that's just a whole different can of worms. That is, you just got to get good at doing it. But the tighter you can do those suckers, it's the same thing. Yes, there's more stability and support in your elbows, but at the same time, you get a little more spring effect. So that's more like assisting the lift. Different can of worms. But the wrist wraps are, in my opinion, they're a must now. And, you know, it's like I got cheap ones from the sporting good, and I ordered cheap ones too. But honestly, after seeing how much they benefit my lifts, spend the money on good ones because they are really, really, really beneficial and they really help. Then we got a question from Sid saying, when I deadlift, I always feel a pump in my lower back muscles after my set. There's no pain, but I was wondering if this is normal or do I need to fix my form? I'm not rounding my lower back either. Well, you know, I can't say anything in absolutes and guarantee you anything, Sid, but what it 100% to me sounds like is your glutes aren't engaged, or your hamstrings. It's probably your glutes. You probably sit a lot. You probably have super tight hip flexors. So even if you can't, super tight quads, super tight hip flexors, even if you can't, or even if you're maintaining like a flat lower back and it's not rounding, it doesn't matter, because if like certain muscle groups aren't firing, like then you said your lower back muscles, like your erector spinae, your spinal erectors are probably like the primary movers still, and you would benefit. I don't know how strong you are, but you're not as strong as you would be if you just activated your glutes. And that means just doing things like glute bridges, holding a glute bridge, stretching out your hip flexors, like doing a couch stretch, a hip flexor stretch, whatever that may be, stretching your quads, stretching your hip flexors. Like Bulgarian split squats would be a great exercise too, to open up your hip flexors while training your entire lower body, but like your glutes. Kettlebell swings, hip thrusts, glute bridges. Really, there's an exercise called Chinese arches that California Strength, I think it's called, did. I made a video about that too. I think I posted it to this Patreon. But anything you can do to get like a pump in your glutes before you do your deadlifting stuff. And again, if you feel in your lower back, it's probably because your hips are super tight. Like, your hamstrings are going to work, you know what I mean? But a lot of times people's glutes are shut off from sitting all day, sitting in a car, sitting at the dinner table, sitting at work, sitting at your desk at school, or whatever it may be. All we do is sit. So what we do is we get really overactive, tight hip flexors. And when you get super tight in the front, like your muscles kind of fall asleep in the back, like your glutes. So really, I think that would be it. And that's why kettlebell swings are a good exercise. A lot of people are like, oh, it's CrossFit, or I've heard other people say that it destroys your back, you know, because it's a lot of repetitive hip hinge. But the main thing about it is, and listen, it's like do as I say, not as I do. I've done kettlebell swings, but that's only because I bought the stupid 203-pound kettlebell. I've done swings with a 203-pound kettlebell, but let me say, that's useless. The benefits of a kettlebell is that it's an explosive, lightweight movement. You don't really need a heavy kettlebell. In fact, you want a light kettlebell so that you can do a perfect hip hinge, and every time you lock out, you really fire those glutes. And doing that in repetitive, like 3 sets of 20 or something, so that you actually get a glute pump, is great then to do going into your deadlifts. Because if you can get a glute pump before you go to your deadlifts, you know that your glute muscles are firing, they're contracting, otherwise they wouldn't be pumped up, you know what I mean? It's the same thing with your deadlifting. You're saying your lower back muscles are pumped. Yeah, that's because they're doing all the work, you know what I mean? For me, even when my back does round, I don't feel it in my lower back, right? I feel like my hamstrings are gonna snap, or I feel it in my glutes. And that's because I guess I've just gotten so trained for those muscles to fire. So I never really feel lower back pump or lower back soreness. It's always my glutes or my hamstrings. So that's something that you're going to have to train. And I think that's going to come down to your flexibility, your mobility, and just doing certain things to get warmed up to get those muscles turned on. And the more and more you do that, then the less you'll have to do that down the road, because your body's this fine-tuned machine and it loves adaptation, right? So once you start to incorporate, like once your glutes are starting to really fire and kick in your deadlifts and your squats and all that, that's what you're going to do unless you change something. Like right now, if you haven't been doing that kind of stuff, mobility, activation stuff, that's your problem. Start doing that, and I think that's going to make a world of difference for you.